Get any money from Costello?
No.
And did you ever get any money from Myalansky?
I never got money from any of those fellas.
None of those
fellas. None of these that I've been reading about, or none that I knew. They never gave me anything.
None of the Shetties?
No. I don't even speak to the... I mean, I met that Charlie once or twice. I don't even talk to him.
You don't like him?
I was conscious of the fact that he had a reputation for being an outstanding bookmaker.
You ever hear him referred to as the Prime Minister of the Underworld?
That term I did not.
Also known as Duck Perella. I refuse to answer on the grounds of make attempt to criminal. Got any business? I refuse to answer on the grounds of attempt to criminal. You have any profession? I refuse to answer on the grounds of make attempt. You have any occupation? I refuse to answer on the grounds of make attempt. Are you a known racketeer?
Good evening. Welcome to Interrogation, our little Wednesday night stream that we do with my friends Lamar, Lucius Argues off of X, and I think we'll be joined by Jason here in a few minutes. Folks, this is a show we watch real police interrogation videos and using my background as law enforcement, using Lamar and Lucian's background in Intel service, both Intel service veterans, and they've had training in how to deal with human assets or human interrogations and questioning. We kind of give the play-by-play, the chess game that goes on between the interrogator and the person who's being interrogated. There's a lot of things that go through it, from how the room is set up to how questions are asked, and when to push pressure and when to release pressure. And that's what we review tonight, or review on the show. Tonight, we've got a difficult one. We've got, this is out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, 2016, a little 10-year-old girl who was killed on her birthday. We're going to go into the interrogation on that, and then I'm going to give you the outcome of this interrogation after our critique. But I want to welcome Lamar. It's pronounced in English, Lamare, pronounced in French. Lamar is a Intel veteran, and I'll let him give the rest of his introduction for himself. You know how these guys who are spooks, they've done everything that they can't talk about.
Hey, Joe. Thanks. Glad to be here again. Good to see you, Lucius. So first, as former U.S. Army turned Intel officer for the Department of Defense, mainly focused on counterintelligence, chasing Russians around here, there, and everywhere. But had some really interesting experiences with support to Washington field office and interrogations and all that good stuff. So really looking forward to it.
Appreciate you, Lamar. You've always got great insight on these interrogations. You give fancy words to what me and Jason try to explain in layman's terms. It's kind of impressive. Hey, Lucian, let's give everyone an introduction to yourself.
All right. Like Lamar, I have some background and training in getting people to say things that they wouldn't ordinarily volunteer. Aside from outside of law enforcement, my role really is to kind of probe for information that people aren't necessarily willing to give up, but not necessarily looking at admissions. So Lamar and I have a slightly different approach to how we interact with people. And I think it's always an interesting contrast to listen to the different goals. So I really enjoy these sessions.
You know, both of your introductions can be a lot faster. It's kind of like the soldier that goes to the bar, and Lamar 100% will know what I'm talking about. And he's trying to impress the ladies by telling them innuendos about stories he can't talk about, because it's top secret missions that he's been on. But for you guys, but that won't hold true if he's talking to another soldier, because we'll call him on his BS. But with you guys, the spooks, we almost have to take you for your word. So you should, I've done a lot of things I can't tell you about, but I'll tell you about this interview tonight. That's what you should introduce both yourselves as.
Well, that's good feedback. We'll take those notes, Joe. We appreciate it.
The mysterious man. Chicks dig it. Okay. Enough small talk. Let's get into what we're going to talk about tonight, because we've got two interrogations. I'm gonna play up the lead up on this, I think, is this is the way I'm going to cue this off. Here we go. Well, the hell I am, I guess. Give me just one moment. Well, tell you what, let's get into it. This was August 23rd, 2016, in an apartment complex, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Sometime in the time frame is a little sketchy. Sometime between 5 and 4 in the morning, a neighbor to Michelle Martens and Fabian Gonzalez, who had lived there for 3 weeks, her live-in boyfriend, and Fabian Gonzalez's cousin, who had just been released from the penitentiary, had been living there for approximately 7 to 10 days, almost about the same time. Sometime in the morning, they're beating on the neighbor's door. They come in. He's got a black eye. Michelle Martens has got a gash on her forehead, a pretty good one, and she's bleeding. And they're saying that somebody beat them up. So neighbor does what neighbor does, call 911. 911 officers arrive. They encounter Jessica Kelly, who is the cousin. They encounter her outside. They watched her jump off the balcony on the second floor apartment. They kick in the door. There's fire alarms going off. You can hear them. It sounds like there's a fire. Officers go to the front door. Front door's locked. They kick it in. They go inside. They clear it as officers will. There's no real fire. There's smoke coming from the bathroom, where they find wrapped in a blanket the torso of a 10-year-old little girl, Michelle Martens' daughter. Victoria Martens is found dismembered and disemboweled in the bathroom, wrapped in a blanket and on fire. And that's where these interrogations begin. This is the day of. I'll grant these interrogators, they don't have a whole lot to go on. But we're going to start out with Michelle Martin, the mother of this child. By the way, August 23rd, 2016 was Victoria Martin's birthday. Later that day, I guess her mother was going to take her to the park and have her 10th birthday. She was super excited for hitting double digits. So keep that in mind while you watch these two winners in life.
Oh, ma'am, I'm Corey.
Hi.
It's nice to meet you.
Josh is gonna go back in and talk to Phoebe a little bit. So I just wanted to come back in so that way we can kind of continue on going through. Okay. Maybe to make it a little bit easier, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit. Victoria's birthday was just yesterday, right? Okay. And what were you guys gonna do for Victoria's birthday?
We were gonna celebrate it today.
Okay. What was did you guys have a plan?
The park above.
The park?
At the park above. It's up at Interrogation.
Okay. Okay.
Nice.
We guys just have friends and cake. Okay. How do you, does that make you, it's hard, huh? Okay.
Real quickly, and welcome, Jason. Jason's joined us, 30-year police veteran, and also the developer and creator of the 3D response system, school safety system that we promote as many times as we can on our shows and all of our streams. But Jason, have you seen enough of this? And I'd like to go around to our intel guys too. Would you pick mom at the story that I gave you? She comes with a gash on her head. Doors locked. It's weird that the cousin jumps off the balcony. A fire set. They didn't know that Michelle did. They didn't say anything about a fire on the 911 call. So would you be treating her as a suspect in this situation, living in the house where this dismembered child is found? Would you consider her a suspect at this point, or are we looking at witness?
I think they're all suspects at this point. We just don't know. I need to know more. I'm looking at all the parties that were there potentially as a suspect. They're a person of interest, definitely. Until they get more facts, yeah, they're all suspects.
I agree. I think this is great baselining, and I want to say this is probably the first one we've seen, Joe, where I keep saying what we would typically try to do is put a female in front of a female. And one of the things I noticed immediately is she started to appeal to her emotion, talking about her feelings and how hard this situation is, using a bit softer language, that type of stuff. But I think, yeah, I take this all as just baseline.
Lucian?
I don't really have anything to add to that. I do notice that the lead is dressed very casually. I'm not sure what time this was going on. I didn't catch that.
This is Albuquerque, New Mexico. I wouldn't expect too much on the dress code.
Fair enough. It is a little surprising considering some of the other videos we've seen.
Okay. I agree. I would treat the fact that we have a dismemberment, and these investigators absolutely know this at this point. I mean, this is some hours after the call. They've not been out of custody, but some hours. I don't see how I could look at anyone that was in that apartment when a body was dismembered and not each one of them being a suspect, unless they come out really fast, talk about I was being held hostage and this is what happened. Of course, that could change the whole ball game. But if we're this far down the road, you absolutely bet I believe she's a suspect.
She was your baby.
I can't imagine my mother without her. Now I have to.
Why'd you name her Victoria?
I always said if I had a girl, I'd name her Victoria.
Okay. And she was 10, just turned 10? Yeah. What were some of her favorite things to do?
Color, math.
Math?
Gymnastics.
Gymnastics. Okay. What does she do, like tumbling and gymnastics?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Wow. You're gonna miss her.
Yeah.
Explain to me that again. What time did Victoria come home, and when did you notice it was gone?
She gets home about 4:30 because the bus gets there about 4. So she went to her friend's house because she didn't see me at the bus stop.
Okay.
And her friend sent her back to the house around 4:30, 4:45, around there. And then that's about the time that me and Fabian, we got back about 4:50, 5 o'clock, around there.
And where were you and Fabian at?
We went to his uncle's.
Oh, okay.
And we came back and that's when I saw on the table.
Okay.
And then
Take your time.
I went to use the restroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I came back and I was gone. And Victoria was the only one in the living room. So then she said she started feeling tired, so she was going to go to bed.
Okay.
So she went in there.
She went into her room? Okay.
And never came back out.
Okay. Did you... What happened next? Did you go check on it?
I always checked her.
Mm-hmm.
When I checked on her, she seemed to be breathing. Because I checked, I always look at her stomach. See it was going up and down. And that was the last time that I checked on her.
Okay.
Fabian said he was going to go check on her for me. So he went to go check on her. And that was the time she wasn't breathing. And that's when he told me, she's not breathing. And then I looked on the table and put the notice that the bag was gone. I was like, did she get a hold of that? And then like, she might have.
Okay.
I was like, what was the only thing there?
And where was the bag at?
On the living room table. Okay. The coffee table.
And did you ever see it after it went missing?
No.
No? Okay.
So then Jessica went to get the knife. And I asked her where she's going with that.
Okay.
She said we're gonna dispose of the body.
So let's back up just a little bit, okay? Because you're skipping around. So Fabian tells you she's not breathing. Did you go check on her?
I did.
Okay. And tell me about that. What did you see?
Just her laying there.
Okay.
I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to call the cops because then they probably would have stopped me from trying to do that.
Okay.
I didn't know what to do.
There's another reason that you didn't call the police, though, isn't there? Why didn't you call police?
Because there was drugs in the house. Okay. And I didn't want them to think it was mine because it's not.
Okay. And I understand. That I understand. Okay. I mean, there's drugs in the house. You don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Okay. So you check on your daughter. And what do you find?
She wasn't breathing when I went in there.
Okay. Was she dead?
She was.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I know that this is not your fault.
I feel like it is.
It's not.
That's how they want me to freaking feel.
That is how they want you to feel. They want you to feel like you did this and it's your fault, but it's not.
Anybody go in the room in between when you checked on her and when the first time and the second time?
I'm not sure because I went to use the bathroom.
When did you and Fabian go to his brother's house to buy some? When was that? Was that before this or after?
That was before this.
Okay.
Because I wasn't home. I wasn't home to get Victoria at the bus stop. And then that's what made her go to her friend's house.
Okay.
And then her friend sent her back to the house when Jessica was there. So I don't know what went on when I wasn't there.
Okay.
So do you remember when you and Fabian were back in the parking lot? When you guys got back to
Me
the
and her were
apartment?
sitting in the car.
Okay. Oh, and you guys, what were you doing?
We were listening to music.
Okay. And what did you see with Jessica? What happened with Jessica?
She was coming down the stairs with my daughter in a blanket.
Why was that?
I don't know.
You do know. So let's back up.
I'm just trying to get the times right because it's kind of getting a little confusing. Do you know what I mean?
So let's back up to where you find her and she's dead on the bed. Okay? What happens from there? There's a conversation between you and Fabian and Jessica. What is that conversation?
He said if I tell anybody that I'm going to be the next one,
Okay.
they threatened me.
And what did you guys decide to do with your daughter? With Victoria? Your baby girl. This is your 10-year-old baby girl, Victoria.
They put me in the bathtub.
Because you were there. And you saw. And you watched. So what was the discussion about what was going to be done with Victoria?
I knew they were going to get rid of her, but I didn't know. I forgot this discussion.
You forgot the discussion?
I don't remember.
Okay. What happened next?
They said that if I say anything, they just kept threatening me.
Okay.
That if I say anything, I'm going to be the next one. Or I better not fall asleep. So then I just left.
So you left?
There was nothing else I could do. I didn't know what to do.
So, from the time you find your daughter and she's dead, Victoria is dead in her room. Am I right? And then you leave. What happened in between that time?
Right before that was the time I saw Jessica stabbing her in the stomach.
Okay.
And then with the pillow over it.
So, explain the whole pillow over her head. What was that for?
Because it's a grip to hold her hands.
So was she already dead?
She was already.
Oh, okay. So you see her and can you kind of explain to me, she's holding her hands?
And Jessica's holding her hands. And Fabian was cutting her arm.
So they were cutting her arms off in the bedroom.
Okay. And they put her in the bathtub.
Okay. When did they start cutting her leg off?
After her birth.
After her? Okay. So what you're saying is Jessica was holding her arms and Fabian was cutting? Okay. So Fabian had the knife at that point? Okay. But you said that Jessica stabbed her in the stomach? Okay. Why?
It's like they were taking turns at her.
Okay. And when you saw this, you didn't call 911 because you were afraid that the cops were going to know that there were drugs in the house?
That they were going to kill me right there on the spot.
Okay. At what time does Jessica carry your daughter down the stairs? Is this before or after they cut her up?
After.
So she was already cut up?
No, that's when they put her in the bathtub. It was before. Before they cut her, because then they put her other pieces in the bathtub.
So she carried her downstairs to you guys when you guys were in the car before they cut her up.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was basically asking, are you guys ready to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So then, just so we're clear, you knew that Victoria was dead, right? And then you and Fabian left for a little bit to go to his brother's house? Is that correct? I'm just
No, that's when I came back. When I came back.
When you...
Okay. Let's talk about the opening. Lamar, you spoke of this is the first one we've seen where they've presented the person to be interrogated with a female on female type of interrogation, and you say that's to appeal to her emotions. How's that working out?
Yeah, I think it's working out really well. So you'll notice that for a portion of that, she was holding her hand. It's to try to comfort the subject. But at the same time, you'll notice that the female interrogator didn't let her kind of manipulate them through the emotion. She was still controlling the conversation, asking for details. And what I did find odd was when the guy jumped in, all of a sudden her emotions kind of dried up a bit, and then she would shift back into it. But I think this female interrogator is doing great.
Okay. Jason, you have an opinion?
No, I like how they're trying to, they circled back to try to get a timeline down. They're trying to control the information that she's giving and then politely interrupting when something doesn't make sense to have her explain it more. There's still a lot of holes here that I have a lot of questions just watching this. I've never seen this before, but I think they're doing a good job right now.
Well, on that, typically for me, when I first sit down with one in a small room with a chair with no wheels, the first round of the story, especially if they're mitigating their culpability into it, if everything that's bad is like, oh, well, I thought they were going to kill me. They told me they were going to kill me. I only did it because they were going to kill me. And I didn't call the police. I was worried about the drugs. I was worried about going to jail versus, the death of my daughter. All that to me rings, I might be skimming the truth at this point, but I don't know that I'm getting it. I don't know that I'm convinced as an interrogator at this point that I'm getting the truth. Maybe that's a good question for all of you guys. Where would you think on the scale of truthfulness she's at right now?
I think she's lying. You'll notice that she was able to remember details, but when it involved her direct complicity or perceived complicity, all of a sudden, I don't remember the details of that conversation. She remembers enough to place the blame on other people, but not enough to remember her particular involvement.
She's got no problem incriminating other people, but she's got a little issue maybe incriminating herself.
Correct.
Lucian, do you have an opinion on that?
Oh, I completely agree. She knows what her part is in all of this, and she's just trying to figure out how to make it so that she seems like a victim as well. The interesting parts are how she starts to describe certain details, and then she gets some things out of order, goes back to correct herself. But I also find it interesting that she just thinks it's, it seems to be okay that my daughter died on the bed from a potential drug overdose, and I don't want to get caught, so I'm not going to call the police. even I think New Mexico already has Good Samaritan laws that came about after this, where you can't be prosecuted if you call in these kinds of situations. Nonetheless, I can't imagine a reasonable person, a parent, deciding, well, my child just died, and so I don't want to go to jail, so we're just going to make her go away. That is irrational in the extreme.
Well, let's not forget, everyone in this room knows that body was dismembered. So dismembering your child is the choice you pick between dismembering your child, I guess, and calling police. But no, I'm going to say it again. You guys have heard it here. This is a Joe Lanu original. It's called circling. It's called circling the drain. They're going to take laps around the outside of the truth, but they're going to suck themselves into something as they go. So I'm predicting that. Of course, I've seen the video, but y'all have heard me predict it before and be correct. And I want to give a shout out to Better Nation. Veteran, you might want to keep watching to see before you make the declaration that you can fix her. I agree, you might be able to fix a lot of them, but I don't know that you can fix this one, because we're just getting started, folks. Let's get back into the interview. We have a bit to watch.
Came back, but we have people saying that you and Fabian were sitting in the car when Jessica was on the stairs with holding Victoria in a blanket.
That's how I knew.
That's how you knew she was dead? Okay, so then let me back up. Victoria told you she was sleeping and was going to go to bed, right? You checked on her a little bit after that. You said she was breathing, right? Mm-hmm. Then you and Fabian left to go get from his brother. Mm-hmm. And I don't care about that. I'm just trying to figure.
Yeah.
Then you guys left. Then when you came back, Jessica was holding Victoria, right?
Yes.
That's when you went up, and that's when you knew for sure she was dead?
Yes.
And what did Jessica tell you about how she died?
She told me she didn't know.
But you said earlier she killed her. How did she kill her?
Victoria took the map that was on the table, and then Jessica stabbed her in the stomach. In her bedroom.
So I guess I'm a little confused, and I think I see what you're talking about. Because it's either your daughter went into the room and she died and you left. Or it's your daughter went into the room, you guys left, came back and found her dead. Which one is it?
The second.
So you were gone.
Yes.
You weren't even there when she was.
Okay, we're going to switch gears. If you notice, the male interrogator or investigators left the room. He's bouncing back and forth between the interrogation with Michelle Martens, the mother, and the live-in boyfriend whose cousin was also living in this apartment with her and her. She had a younger boy as well, a younger son who was with his father this weekend. But unfortunately, Victoria Martens was left with her own mother on her 10th birthday. So that's the scheme of things. We're going to go to Fabian's interrogation.
No, like I said.
And again, this is happening real time. This is another female interrogator that is staying as the anchor in this interrogation room with Fabian Gonzalez, the live-in boyfriend. So you're seeing it as the male investigators walking back in.
There's some detectives talking to her. So in order to make sure we get everybody's story right.
The only reason why I'm saying that is because us together could explain how you didn't hear it and how she broke herself.
So let me explain this. If you guys are both telling the truth, then the stories will be exactly the same and you have nothing to worry about. Okay, Fabian. Based on some information we've got from other detectives who are still out there, from your old lady, we have some other things that have kind of come up that aren't making sense. Those we want to talk to you about, okay? Mm-hmm. Are you doing okay, bro? Did you get some water?
Yeah.
Was that what did you eat, dude? Was it anything?
The food bar or whatever.
It's kind of gross, huh?
Yeah.
I had one taste like cardboard.
Yeah.
I like them.
It was pretty gross.
They're not that good. I really don't like them. I just hate it because I get hungry, man.
Okay, so
I haven't eaten for like 10 hours, so.
Hey,
but I'm not even really hungry. I just had my stomach just.
Unsettled.
This doesn't feel. It just feels like it's a nightmare. It just doesn't feel real, guys. This really doesn't.
Yeah.
Fabian claims he hasn't eaten in 10 hours, describing it as a nightmare, yet his self-pity starts here, while the true nightmare was Victoria's.
But we're trying to figure out exactly what happened because, like we said before, I think Victoria deserves that.
Well, yeah.
I mean, anybody deserves that, but especially a little girl, you know?
To me, this is... I would have never thought ever in my whole life would I be in something like this, ever.
So, Fabian, just off the top, we're going to ask you this. We obviously have Victoria's body, okay?
Okay, can I ask you this real quick? Where did you find it?
Okay, so we can get into that. We have Victoria's body. Now, we're going to do a bunch of tests and stuff. We'll collect a bunch of evidence from her body, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We can tell what kind of things were used to injure her, how she died, if something happened to her, what injuries she sustained before she died.
Maybe if she suffocated or something, that's why we didn't hear, maybe. That's probably the only real thing I can think of right now, because I would have heard it and I would have got up and did the same thing I done for Michelle when she was trying to do that to her. You know what I mean?
Okay, so we'll be able to tell that. Did Victoria suffocate?
I don't know. Okay? I do not know if she suffocated. I don't know. All I know is what you guys just told me now, that her leg broke, whatever, got cut off or whatever.
So let me get back to what I was talking about, okay?
I should have been able to hear it, but I didn't hear it. I'm telling you,
okay. Let me get back to what I'm talking about, and it'll clarify some stuff, okay? We'll be able to tell if there's injuries on her body, if they were sustained before she died. We'll be able to tell how she died, and then what injuries she sustained after she died, okay? So that'll help us out. We will also be able to tell who's touched her.
Yeah, I want you guys to very much.
If who she touched.
Yep.
We can see if she scratched somebody, if she grabbed somebody's hair, if there's hair or clothes on her. There's all kinds of stuff, right? You've seen TV. There's all kinds of.
Yes, so I want this to all.
Okay, so here's the question I have to ask you because of that. Because we're gonna get those tests back.
Okay, that's fine.
We are.
Mm-hmm.
My question just flat out. If for what reason would we find your DNA on Victoria, on her body, on her clothes, or even inside of her body? And I know that sounds horrible, but I have to ask the question.
No. Hell no. No, man. That's crazy, man. And I know you have to ask that question.
Yeah, we just have to ask.
No damn way.
Any reason I'm going to find any of your DNA in her fingernails from her fighting with you or scratching you?
Nope. Jessica. That's right now. Telling you right now, that's the only one I can think of right now because she's the one that wouldn't try to do that to us. She tried killing us, for Christ's sakes. I wouldn't do something like that to nobody, no matter what situation or what. I just never even thought like that. I don't have it in me, okay? I would never do something like that. I just don't got it in me. I'm not built like that.
All right, interrogators. What about an assessment of the subject here? Anybody picking up anything on him, and also maybe add to that, what type of tact might you take at a guy like this from whatever assessment that you have?
I mean, I'll jump in. I think he's lying. One of the things I've been a little bit confused by is the male gator is not allowing him to just run his mouth. He seems very willing to talk, and just as Jason and yourself, Joe, said before in other episodes, where these guys they'll nail themselves to a story. So when someone's super talkative,
man, I wanted to say it, but I wanted to wait. But you're absolutely right. I think that all the investigators are talking too much. Sorry, I just wanted to pat myself on the back, but continue.
You're fine. You're correct. I think for me, immediately his physiology is betraying him. Like I said before, he's shifting body position way too much. I think he's nervous out of his gourd, which is why his stomach's turning, and he's just trying to figure out how to make his way through this entire session.
You know what? I'm going to buy every bit of that. 100%. Put it on my tab. Jason, you want to give an assessment?
I would I agree. I don't know why. I would have started with, tell me what happened, and just let him talk, and let him go and go and go, and then come back and tear his story apart with facts and see how he responds to that. But I agree. Let him set the stage. Don't set it for him, especially on the first interview.
Isn't that basically how you want to start exactly the first interview, is to let them paint themselves into a story? All right, you tell me what happened, and then I'm going to come back and tell you how that didn't happen, but you're going to stumble over until you just give up and tell me what happened, right?
Yeah, anytime you let somebody sit down, they're going to go into self-preservation mode, and they're going to try to make themselves look like, they're going to give up just enough to say that I was there, but not just enough to convict them in that room. And I don't care if it's a homicide or a burglary or an assault. It's all the same. Let them tell their story, because if their story doesn't match it up with the investigation and the facts you find, well, now you have a flaw there. And I agree that the detectives need to just tell me what happened and let him talk.
I'm agreeing with both of you guys. Let's see if Lucian has a contrary opinion.
No, I had wanted to point out previously, I was actually going to ask if it was usual for investigators to lead questions as often as the lady did in the first segment. I was a little taken aback by that, but you're letting it roll. I thought it was weird. This guy's behavior is all over the place, and I get the sense that the people asking questions have already made up their minds on this, and they're probably disturbed by the scene, which who wouldn't be, right? And that may be contributing to the fact that they're trying to power through all of this. But I think they're making some mistakes along the way that I think they're probably going to burn them.
Yeah, I just point out one last thing before we go back to the live video. The one distinction, I agree with you, Lucian. The one distinction I would make between the woman and this subject is when someone's overwhelmed with emotion, mentally they're kind of lost in the forest. You can talk them out of it. So that's the only alibi I would give to the female gator with the first subject. With this dude, they just need to be quiet and let him run.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment as well. Let's go back to it. I would say this, that I almost think that these interrogators are underestimating these two subjects. I mean, they seem unsophisticated, but if you think about it, you go back and look at all the others. We haven't done a ton, but the few that we've done before, they all start out the same way, no matter how sophisticated. Go back to the colonel in Canada. He essentially did the same things. That circling of the drain, this dance that you do at the table, where the person being interrogated is trying to gain as much information, and the interrogators trying to do the same. But I don't think they're treating these two folks like they're very sophisticated, and I think that might be a detriment. Let's see.
Never happened. Okay. I feel you on that. Absolutely. For me to have to go through this as a person, as an individual, not knowing that this was going to happen at all whatsoever, or not being able to notice, you know how I feel.
How do you feel? Tell me.
I want to be. I just feel like it's real.
Okay, now we're going to jump back to Michelle Martens' interview. So that's what they're doing. That one investigator is going back and forth.
Fine. Okay. And so you come back and you guys make this plan, like, great, now we're going to get in trouble, so we got to get rid of the body. Am I right?
Yeah, but I don't want to have no part in it.
Okay.
It's not my fault.
But this is your daughter.
I know.
This is Victoria. This is your baby.
How did Victoria die? Do you know?
She tasted the that was on the table.
Okay, so because you said something a minute ago, you said that Jessica stabbed her?
And it was after she was already dead.
Okay.
So you know that she took and that's what killed her. Okay. So you guys, or you watch, but Jessica and Fabian cut your daughter up, Victoria. They cut her arms off. They cut her leg off. They cut her from here to here. Victoria. They cut her. And you watch, right?
I couldn't. After I saw it, but she was starting to cut her arm, I left.
What do you mean you left?
I went outside.
Okay. So explain to me what happened after that. You guys started cleaning up?
And they started cleaning up.
What did you do?
I went in the kitchen.
What'd you do in the
Getting
kitchen?
ready to make dinner. Making the tacos. And then Fabian took over after he was finished.
After you guys cut the arms off of Victoria, cut her leg off, and wrapped her up in a blanket and put her in the bathtub, right? Then you went and made dinner. And what did Jessica and Fabian do?
I feel like nothing ever happened.
Okay. So where did they cut her up at?
The bathtub.
In the bathtub? So where did they cut her arms off at?
In the bedroom.
In the bedroom. Okay. Did you, when they were cutting her up, Victoria, did you ever touch Victoria or hold on to her, hold her arm? Did you ever hold her steady?
Because they threatened me saying if I go near them, that they're going to kill me too.
Okay. So you go and make dinner. Okay. And they are cleaning. And then what happens after that?
Once dinner is done, I go in my room and I eat.
Okay.
And I
so
only
you
ate one
eat.
taco.
Well, because you were probably sick to your stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
So then I put the other one in the fridge.
Okay.
And then that's when I went back in the room. And I went to try and lay down.
Okay. And how did this all happen? How did the fight happen?
That's true.
Did they think you were going to try to get away?
Yes, because when I got up out of bed because I couldn't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got up, that's when Jessica asked me if I believed in God. And that was my hint right there that she was trying to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to get up because I saw the iron in her hand.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got up, that's when she hit me. And I was holding like this. And I went outside into the living room. And then that's where everything else took place.
Okay.
She just started beating me and beating me.
Now you and Fabian both left out of the front door. And I know that you left together because the neighbors you guys woke the neighbors up and they all watched you. Okay. So you and Fabian left together out the front. What did you guys decide you were going to tell police? Because you now have to call police. You're very hurt. What did you guys decide to tell the police?
No, Jessica did.
That Jessica did it. Okay.
Or the first thing that happened to her body after she was dead? Was she stabbed? Was she cut? What was the first thing?
She was stabbed.
And who did that?
Jessica.
Did she just stab her or did she slice her?
Did that.
Okay.
So straight up and down into her body?
And this was in her.
Then she went up.
This was in her bedroom?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what happened to Victoria after that?
They left it in the bathtub.
So she still had her arms when she went into the bathtub?
And they would cut one off.
They cut one of her arms off on the bed? Okay.
One or both?
One.
Okay. And then they put her in the bed? When did they cut off her second arm?
Did they put her in the bathtub?
When did they cut her leg?
She was in the bath.
when she was in the bath.
What were they saying when they were cutting her? What were they talking about?
It was like, if you say anything to anybody, you're gonna be the next one.
Is there anything else? Anything you can remember?
No.
Did they talk about where they were going to put her body? What they were going to do with it?
I don't remember.
Anything else you remember that they said? I know it's hard. I know it's very traumatic. Did they say anything to you? Did they tell you they were sorry?
No.
Did they tell Victoria they were sorry?
No. They had no remorse.
Did anybody use the iron for anything at that point? Was anybody have the iron?
No, that came when Jessica started fighting with me.
Okay. So you never saw the iron before she hit you with it?
No.
What did they do with Victoria's arms? Were they in the house?
I didn't see her in the house.
Okay. Maybe let me ask you this. Maybe it'll refresh your memory a little bit. Okay. Do you remember them wrapping Victoria in a trash bag? Do you remember that? When did they do that? Or a bag? I don't know if it was a trash bag. Did they wrap her in plastic?
No, but they had the trash bags under the sink.
In the kitchen?
They used those?
And both of them lifted her up and put her in there.
And was it before they started cutting her or after?
After.
After which part? Her arms or after her leg? No, I'm asking you really difficult questions, okay?
No.
It's really hard to think about. Do you remember when they put her in the trash bag?
I don't remember exactly. But it was after they cut one of her lips. I don't remember exactly.
Was it before they put her in the bathtub?
It was after.
After? Okay.
So when I finally escaped Jessica from beating me up, and I finally got out the door, I was gonna go knock on my neighbor's door right next to me. And that's when Fabian called me. He's come over here, over here. That's when I went over there and I went to the neighbor's house and sat down.
Okay.
Then I don't know what went on after. All I heard was the smoke alarms. So she was probably trying to set my house on fire.
Did they talk about fire when you were there? Or?
No. No, but all I heard was the alarms.
Michelle,
And Jessica was the only one in the house at that time.
Michelle, did they talk about putting Victoria in a car and taking her somewhere? Or what they were going to do with her?
They didn't mention it to me.
So they didn't have...
Because it would have been my car.
Okay.
But Michelle, there was a conversation that you guys had about what you were going to do with Victoria, with her body.
What were you going to do?
And if it's easier, what were they going to do to Victoria? What were they going to do with her body?
She was my one and only.
What's that?
She was my one and only miracle child.
And you were a good mom. You're not a bad person.
Yes.
Michelle, what were they going to do with Victoria's body?
They were going to try to take my car.
Okay.
But I wouldn't let them get the keys.
Okay, and what were they going to do with your car?
Take her somewhere. I don't know where.
Okay,
Just to get rid of her.
Michelle, one more thing, okay? Did Jessica ever specifically say anything to you about how she killed Victoria? Do you know how she killed her? Or do you not know?
She never mentioned to me that she was even going to do that.
Do what?
Kill her.
So how do you know she killed her?
Because she was the only one in my house.
Okay.
So did she kill her or did she take her and die? And you need to be completely honest because we've heard two stories. Did she take her and she died? Or did Jessica kill her? Remember, be honest. When we go to autopsy tomorrow, is Victoria going to have in her system? She will not.
So then how did she die, Michelle?
What happened?
How did Victoria die?
Okay, we had a milestone there. She changed her story, didn't she? Originally, she said that the child ingested meth and died. Do you guys have any opinion on that?
Yeah, this is rough. I mean, yeah, I do. I think I still think the Gators are talking too much, but she's wrapped herself up in the story to this point where it seems pretty obvious early on that she was lying. Her story was inconsistent, and it goes back to this. I think they probably picked up on it based off the questions they're asking her, where she remembers too much about things that are largely irrelevant and not enough about the things that are. And I think it finally caught up to her.
Yeah, most people would have seen that coming. What do you think, Lucius? And B, Jessica is in her late 20s, early 30s, I believe. She's just been released from the penitentiary for a manslaughter charge, if that gives you an idea of the Jessica that we're speaking of. But Lucian, go ahead.
Again, I don't really have much to add. This is brutal. I think the people asking questions are trying to rush a few things. They're starting to give some stuff away, but they are pressing an advantage when they can. I don't know. Like I said, this is a difficult one to hear her switch back and forth, and it's tough for me to listen to. I'll just tell you, because what I'm hearing is a subtext of, I don't really care what happened to my daughter. I only really care about if I can get myself out of the situation. And that's just, like I said, I'm having trouble stepping away from that one.
You know, the part that got me is that in her story, whether it be true or not, but in her story, while her 10-year-old daughter is being dismembered, she's got to have dinner. She's got to have supper ready. So she's making tacos.
Yeah. That is absolutely horrific. No, a rational person doesn't do those kinds of things. And what's confusing to me right now is the level of emotion that she's showing. I don't know. I would like.
I'm with you, Lucian. It's inconsistent. The level of emotion that she's showing is inconsistent with her ability to lie and try to navigate her way through the story.
Yeah, she's showing some hysterical elements, and then all of a sudden she calms down, and then she's back to it. It's almost like she's trying to go through a checklist in her head of when, how upset should I be, and are they going to give me any sympathy and let me kind of quote unquote suffer.
Is it not like a child being in trouble? They're emotional because they're fishing for sympathy. The sympathy is going to lessen the pain of whatever consequences about to come for whatever you've just done as a kid. That's what I see when I see people do this, and I see it in Fabian as well.
So those are malformed emotions then. So you're saying that they haven't gotten, they don't have any emotional maturity that they can put into the situation.
Now, well, I think it's a defense mechanism that worked for them as a child, and they haven't matured beyond that point. Is my thing. But of course, okay. I'm not a psychologist. That's just my observation.
So I largely, not to step on you here, Joe. I largely agree, and you could see the arrested development with them. The one thing that gives me pause with her is out of nowhere during a series of questions she says about her daughter, she was my one and only special child, which was, to me, when I heard her do that, she was trying to pull herself deeper into the emotional sobbing and also trying to manipulate the investigators. So when I saw that, it's like, yes, they're immature and they're trying to manipulate, but now I'm kind of wondering, like, how legitimate is the level of emotion that she is displaying?
And that's why I was thinking earlier when Joe mentioned that the investigators are potentially underestimating the ability here. I didn't agree with that comment, but I wasn't really sure I could put my finger on it. But when you came back and mentioned the maturity level, that made a lot more sense.
Jason, you've met a lot of folks that have had issues with addictive drugs, and some that had, you can almost tell at what age they started very heavy drug use, particularly methamphetamine. I would say, well, let me go to you, Jason. What age do you think? First off, do you agree with the premise that I just said, that people kind of stop maturing emotionally when they start doing heavy drugs on a large amounts, like 16, 17 years old? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think brain's not fully developed until, what, 23, 24? And when you mix in heavy use of dope, and I'll say this, welcome to the meth world. This, what I'm seeing here is two people with more concern about their own self than what just happened. And to kind of go back a little bit, at this point, and I agreed, Joe, you stole my thunder with the taco thing when she said I was cooking tacos while your daughter's being cut up.
I'm glad
I lost my shit. I was like, I'm like, that's just not what normal people do. A normal mother would grab a knife, an axe, a chair, and go in there and defend even your daughter's body. Like, her response to this is completely ridiculous. At this point, as a detective, I'm turning up the heat on her because she can't tell a story accurately. So I'm going to tell it for you at this point based upon what I know, and prove me wrong now.
Yeah, and see, at this point, given the things we've just talked about, my perspective on this is shifting away from it's an accident we tried to cover up to we knew we were doing something wrong and it went too far. Whether they intended the death or not at this point, I wouldn't be able to tell you from what we've seen, but there's a distinction. If we were screwing around and we didn't want to get in trouble because there was an unforeseen event, okay. But this tells me there's a history of really bad stuff going on previous to this.
I'll go back to the emotional maturity. And what I've said, and I think Jason has observed it in the same manner that I have with meth users. And Jason, I'm sure, has sat across the table and had conversations, not necessarily an interrogation, with a lot of folks that have had serious methamphetamine problems. And you'll find that they, 16, 17 years old, if they started hitting that stuff pretty hard at that time, even a little bit even, that's where they stop. If this woman and the other man, Fabian, if they had started using meth at 27, 28 years old, you would have to be doing a different game in here. And I agree with Jason. I think playing emotionally is just how teenagers are going to play back to you. So you've got this dance back and forth until you're spun in yarn. You don't know where you're at. I disagree with the tack that these investigators are taking. But let's keep watching, because we haven't hit the twist yet.
She what?
She tried it.
She tried what?
The drug on the table.
So Victoria did take the on the table. So will there be meth in her system? Yeah.
So why did you just tell us no a second ago, Michelle? It's confusing to me. What are you afraid of?
Do you think we're gonna blame you? And why are you afraid to tell us that she took?
Because I feel like a failure.
Did somebody do something to Victoria after she took to make sure that she stayed asleep? That you know of?
That I can recall. I can't remember much.
So did you lie about Jessica killing your daughter because that was the plan when you and Fabian got attacked? And it's okay if you did. I understand why you would be dishonest. But I need to know, because we can't, I don't want Jessica to get in trouble for something that she did or did not do. So if she killed your daughter, we need to know that. But if she didn't kill your daughter, if it was an accident that she took these drugs, we also need to know that too. Does that make sense? Okay. Did Jessica kill your daughter?
No.
No. Okay. Did your daughter die because there was left on the table and she took some?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Did you guys cut her apart because you were afraid to call police because she had died from drugs and you were afraid that you would get in trouble?
They did, yes.
They did. Okay. Did Michelle kill Victoria? Okay. Was it an accident?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Did anybody force Victoria to beat Thomas?
No.
Nobody did try it?
Do you wish now that you had called police when she took it?
Yes.
Okay.
The truth is far more twisted. Victoria's autopsy report showed no signs of, so it's clear she didn't take the drug at the time of her death. But Michelle here thinks leading the detectives with this story will prevent them from stumbling upon her dark secret. While Michelle thinks her strategies are working, she still does not realize that detectives see right through it. The male detective had outright asked her if she was involved, and seeing her hesitation, he changed the question, asking if they were involved instead. It helps in loosening Michelle's narrative and allows her to disclose more than she had planned.
You, and correct me if I missed something, okay? If I'm mistaken. Victoria said she was going to go to bed, right? Because she felt sleepy after you saw the bag missing, right? You and Fabian then left Victoria at the house with Jessica, and you and Fabian went to Fabian's brother's house and bought stuff, right? Okay. Then when you guys came back, you guys were in the car listening to music, and that's when Jessica brought Victoria onto the porch, was holding her, right? When you guys went inside at that point, that's when you realized that Victoria was dead? Okay. How long were you gone from the time when after you checked on her and you and Fabian left, how long from the time you walked out the door till the time you walked back in the door, roughly?
About an hour and a half, maybe.
Okay.
And this is after she's already come home from school? Okay.
And so she tells you, Mommy, I'm tired, I'm gonna go lay down. You guys had come home from school and everything, and you said that was about what time that you think?
She went to her neighbors, they get off the bus at 4. And sometimes the bus is late, so it gets there about 4:15. So she went to her friend's house at 4:30, and then her friend had to come out, so she went to my house.
Okay.
After that, and that's when she went inside with Jessica.
When you guys went in to the house after you bought, Jessica told you she put her down to go to sleep, right? And you guys didn't check on her right away?
No, I didn't. She was like, she's heavy. I was like, yeah, I know, she's 74 pounds. I was like, she's a dead sleeper.
And then about an hour after that, Fabian went in to check on her. And what did he say when he came out?
She's not breathing.
Okay. What did Jessica say anything at that point?
No, she ain't quiet.
Okay. And then you went in and checked if she was breathing? And then how long was it after that that they decided to start cutting up her body? Pretty fast?
It's about 5-10 minutes.
Fabian, is his DNA going to be on Victoria?
I hope not.
So, like,
from holding.
Like if I grabbed Corey, my DNA is going to
no.
But you said they were holding her to cut her.
But Jessica was holding her arms.
So he never touched her. He just only held a knife, or what?
What about when they put her in the trash bag? You said they both lifted her up and put her in the trash bag.
The pieces.
Well, that's still Victoria. Whether it's an arm or it's a leg, it's still your daughter. It's still Victoria. Right? So, is his DNA going to be on her arm or on her leg if he picked up the pieces and put them in this bag?
Yes.
Yes.
So at any point, did you hold Victoria's limbs while they cut her?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Did you at any time use a knife or any other object to help dismember Victoria?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Did you touch her or move her or anything while she was in the bathtub?
No.
Okay. Did you assist with putting her in the trash bag?
No.
So at no point after she died, when Fabian came out and said she wasn't breathing, did you go touch her?
I had touched her stomach to see if her stomach was going up and down. And I was checking her pulse.
Okay.
And that was the last time I touched her.
Okay. So after that.
Okay. Has anybody got in their mind the timeline of this day yet? From her interrogation this far? Jason, do you have a chronological timeline in your head?
No. No.
Right. But what about Lamar?
It's a little muddy.
No, I'm
What
confused.
about Lamar? You're confused too, Lamar. Have you picked it up yet?
It's murky. The time gap stuff doesn't make any sense to me. She keeps going back, and so no, I would not be confident. And if someone were to ask me, "Hey, tell me in detail what happened on this day,"
And I'll tell you, that's another critique that I have for the interrogators. And it may be something that's personal to me. I like everything in a chain. This happened, and then the next thing happened, and then the next thing happened. And I don't think the interrogators know, because I'll be honest with you, it's not real clear through this. I've done some research, so I've kind of got an idea of the timeline. But the timeline is not real clear in this interrogation with her or Fabian, who we'll go back to in a minute. But they spend more time with Mother here. And she has a lot more to say. So I'm gonna let it go.
Did you ever have any physical contact with the body of your daughter?
I didn't even get to tell her I love her.
After Victoria passed away, and it must have been just absolutely so difficult. Before you went and made dinner, after you guys had, or after Fabian and Jessica cut her.
One more thing, Jason. Would you have nailed her on the dinner thing? Would you have let that go? Like, well, when you went and made dinner and they were, cutting up your daughter, how would you have approached her with the, I made tacos while they're cutting my kid's arms off?
Knowing me, I would have probably stopped and said, "You were doing what when your daughter's being chopped up?" At that point, I would have said, "Okay, cut the shit." Huh?
Yeah, I wouldn't let her off of that. I would not let her off of that. I would drive that home.
No, I that would be the point, that you are so full of shit. Your brain. I would have dug into her hard there, with her mindset of what is right and what is wrong.
So I don't disagree with you guys. I'm surprised they didn't use it to test her memory again. So again, like there are linguistic tells that she's using. So the vast majority of people listening to this have probably never heard someone say, if you've asked them something and they say, "I don't recall." Most people have probably heard someone say, "Absolutely not," depending on the conversation. I would have pushed her to ask how she prepared dinner, because this would reinforce in my mind, for some reason you remember in extreme detail certain things, but then all of a sudden you, quote, can't recall things that are pretty relevant to this situation.
Well, then there seems to be a common theme there, a common denominator. The incriminating things she can't remember very well, but the mundane things, like I went and made tacos for dinner because it was dinner time. Obviously, we got to eat, while they cut up my child. I just want to bring that point home. I don't think Jason would have I think most investigators would not have let that go. I would have brought that home. You're either lying or you're evil. We're going to figure out which one it is.
I got to give Lamar a little credit there. That tactic is awesome. I don't know if I could have the emotions to go that route. Like, what type of season did you use? How long did you cook the hamburgers? I like that tactic. I just gave Lamar.
Yeah, there's some kudos being handed out across the aisle here. Yeah, I think it's a good tactic. Let's see if they go back to that. There's going to be some more talk about the tacos from both parties.
When did you and Fabian have intercourse? And was it forced? Or
It wasn't forced.
Okay, so when did you guys have?
It was before we went to bed.
Before you went to bed. Was it before or after you ate?
Asking.
After you ate. Okay. So, and I just want to make sure. So, she dies. They cut her up, and then they clean up, and then you guys had made dinner, and then after that you had intercourse with Fabian before you went to bed. Okay. All right. Okay. I just want to verify what he's saying, just so that way I can make sure that we have the correct story. One question, and it's a very serious question. Okay. Who was raping your daughter? Who was assaulting your daughter?
She's 6 years old.
Who was sexually assaulting your daughter, Michelle? Because you knew about it.
That was my ex-boyfriend.
That was your ex-boyfriend?
Yes. And that's why I got rid of him.
What's his name?
David Hernandez.
Is he assaulting your son as well?
Not that I know of.
Michelle.
Because my son is barely with me. He's mostly with his
Michelle.
father.
Was he assaulting your son as well?
Not really, no.
When did
Wait, what? Time out.
Yeah. No.
What the to be frank, what the does not really know mean when it comes to child. Was he assaulting your son or not?
No.
Okay, that was the most, out of all the answers you've given me, that was the most deceptive answer you've given me all day. You need to, this isn't the time, you're not in trouble for it. We got to know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Was he assaulting your son as well?
No.
When did you find out that Fabian and Jessica were active with your daughter? When did you find out? And be honest.
Not too long ago.
Not too long ago. Okay.
If I would have known that, I would have totally get out.
So, how much were they giving her so that way they could assault her?
Maybe quite a few.
They gave it to her quite a few times. Okay.
How would they give it to her?
You just put it in her mouth.
Okay.
Like that.
How did she die last night? While she was being assaulted, how did she die? It's not what killed her.
Probably contributed to it. We know for a fact that this is not what killed her. How did she die, Michelle?
Okay, let's go back. When did you find out that Fabian was having sex with your daughter, with Victoria? How long ago?
Just recently.
Just recently?
What is recently?
Like
how many days?
Days, weeks?
Days.
Days?
A couple of days.
Like a couple of days, like 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days?
2.
2 days. Okay. And when did you find out that Jessica was also assaulting your daughter? Were they doing this together?
Yes.
Find out about it. Did you walk in on it? It's okay, but I need to know. Did you walk in on it?
Yeah.
All right, professionals. Do we think that the leading questions are increasing?
Yeah, they're totally losing their cool on this. Like I said earlier, I think they knew too much about it and they tried to accelerate through it.
Yeah, right. I think that the leading is kind of getting out of hand here. Jason, what do you think?
At this point, I think it's time to cut the shit and just say, here. I mean, I don't know. I'm getting a little frustrated with the investigators.
Let's go to the point. We watched here when someone came in and told the investigator that, remember, all this is going on. And what they did, they found the little girl's private parts were torn, so indicated the sexual assault, preliminary indication of sexual assault. So they've come back and they've given that information to the investigators here, the interrogators here, and they turn and confront her with it. But what tact? I know in my mind what tact I would use to reveal that information. But Jason, so you're sitting in an interrogation room. You've got a dead child, and while you're in the interrogation, you get the whisper in the ear. You get the text message that says that indications of a sexual assault. How do you blend that into the interrogation? Do you just say, "Hey"? Well, let me ask that. How would you blend that in? How would you use that information? Hypothetically.
I think the way they asked it was fine when the guy was asking questions and he directed it back to her answer to, what was it, not much, or her answer to if he was
not really. Did you sexually assault your son? Not really.
And but that's been her whole kind of MO throughout this entire thing, where she's just dancing around stuff with information being presented to her. So what I would actually come up with kind of a hypothesis that what's in it for her to allow her son and daughter to be sexually assaulted? What is the gain for her? Why are you allowing this? That's probably the angle that I would have taken.
Not a bad angle. I think I would have just laid it out there as like, well, lo and behold, your little girl was sexually assaulted. How does that fold into the story? Yeah, I think I would have thrown it and at least got some squirming time out of it before I bracketed it in. But I think I would have shot it out there as just a general blast. So what do you think? Sort of thing. What about you Intel guys? Would y'all have some fancy words on how to introduce this?
So for me, I mean, if they've had this in their back pocket the entire time,
I don't believe they had. I think we witnessed when they learned about it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I probably would have. I think that there's a degree of pettiness that's okay in the booth, and if she had made another comment about how special her daughter was to her and how she, I never got to tell her I love her again, all that kind of stuff, that's when I would drop that nuke. And just gauge her emotional response.
Yeah, you know what? I think I would be out of the game of engaging emotional responses right now. I think by this time in the box, I would have assessed this person, as I have already, as a meth user, and I'm dealing with a 17-year-old. In this case, maybe a 14-year-old. All right, well, let's see what else this grieving mother has to say.
Okay.
They were both on her.
They were both on your daughter? Okay. So 2 days ago, you find out that they're your daughter. Am I right? Okay. So how would they do it?
Well, at work.
You were in the room while she was being assaulted. You were there. Did you participate?
No.
Did you watch?
No.
You just watched? You were there. When your daughter was being assaulted, you were there. Where were you?
Mm-hmm.
You were in the bedroom. In your bedroom or your daughter's bedroom?
I was in my bedroom.
Okay, and where were Fabian and Jessica?
I thought they were having a cigarette, but they weren't.
What were they doing?
No. You watched them give them her, and you knew what they were gonna do. Don't play. Let's not start playing games now, girl. They weren't having a cigarette. You knew they were your daughter. Where were they? Your daughter. What room?
In her room.
Okay.
How did you participate? I don't think that you assaulted your daughter. Did you help hold her down? And I appreciate you being honest about what Jessica and Fabian have done. Okay. But the only thing that you're not being honest about is your involvement. Okay. So, when Jessica and Fabian were in the room assaulting your daughter, what part did you take in that act?
I let him do it.
You let them do it?
Were you having intercourse with Fabian or Jessica while they had sex with your daughter?
No.
Did you have sex with Fabian right after he had sex with your daughter?
Yes.
Did Fabian put his in your daughter's or in any other part of her body? Her mouth or her... Well,
I could see.
what was he doing to her? I need to know.
He was going on top of her
With what?
with his on top.
Did he put his in your daughter?
Not inside, no.
Was he rubbing it in the lips of her?
Yeah.
So it
That's
penetrated.
basically-
So it penetrated the lips of her. Was he completely naked or was he clothed?
He had his shorts down with his shirt off.
And what was Jessica doing to your daughter?
She was holding her.
How?
Her arms and her shoulders. So, and her feet. Baby was holding her feet.
What were you holding? What were you holding? Be honest.
I'm being honest.
So you just watched? Yeah, you just watched, but you didn't help hold her down.
No.
Did you, while they were doing this, did you have any physical contact with Jessica or Fabian or your daughter of any sort?
No.
Did Fabian on or inside your daughter?
On
On?
top of her stomach.
Was your daughter saying anything?
Stop. Stop.
What was Fabian saying?
He wasn't really saying much. He was just...
And you just stood there and watched? You just let them do this to your daughter? Yes?
She was...
And then how long after he did on your daughter did he have sex with you?
Like 15, 20 minutes.
How long was Victoria alive after she was, or was she dead after she was? Did they kill her then? I need to know.
Yes.
Yes to what?
They killed her.
When? When they raped her? And how did they kill her?
You were there, you watched it.
You know?
Explain that to me, I don't understand. He raped her so hard she died?
He covered her mouth.
With what?
Tape.
Okay. I thought you said she was screaming.
She finally got the goodness that melt tape. If it gets wet.
Michelle, stop. Let's go back to when we were being honest. This is your girl, Victoria, who is being held down on a bed so an adult man can her.
Who killed her?
Fabian and Jessica.
How did Fabian and Jessica kill Victoria? Michelle, how did they kill your daughter?
We're holding her down.
How are they holding her down? Because if I hold on to Corey's arms, it's not going to kill him. Where were they holding her?
I don't know.
Whose hands were on her neck?
Fabian's hands because he was on top of her.
And whose hand was on her mouth?
Jessica.
When he was done, when he did it on your daughter, was she dead already? Or was she still alive?
She wasn't moving.
After he was done, did they do anything to ensure that she was dead? What did they do to make sure that she was dead, Michelle? No, that's not good enough. What did they do when they were done with your daughter and holding her by her neck? We're way past playing any games here, girl. Did they do anything?
They stabbed.
When you guys started having with Victoria, where did it start? In the living room or in the bedroom?
The bed.
In the bedroom? Whose bedroom?
In hers.
In hers?
Michelle, were you clothed or were you naked?
I was clothed.
Was Jessica clothed or was she naked?
She had her top off.
And Fabian, you said he had his shorts on with his exposed?
He had them pulled down, but he had no shirt on.
And was Victoria?
Yeah. She had her pants off.
Who took Victoria's clothes off?
They took the pants off. Jessica took her shirt off.
What did you do with her underwear? What did you do with Victoria's underwear?
Put them in the laundry basket.
You took them and you put them in the laundry basket. Why? What was on them?
Fabian.
What else?
Blood.
And why was there blood on them?
Because he penetrated.
Because he penetrated her. Okay.
And then 20 minutes later, you had with Fabian?
How long have you been assaulting your daughter?
I've never assaulted my daughter.
Okay. How long have you been inviting men into your house to assault your daughter?
The only two that I know of is David and his him.
Okay. But you've allowed it.
No, I kicked him out. But then I found out about them too, and then
What did David do to your daughter?
he was like trying to kiss her on the lips and stuff like that. And
Did he
was trying to put his fingers down there. And
Did he your daughter?
no, I took her and got tested, and it came out negative.
Did you report it to the police?
Yes, I did.
Fabian and Jessica were assaulting your son.
I didn't know they were assaulting my son.
We are not going. Okay. We know that there's been contact on your son. We've been doing a lot of stuff since you guys called 911 last night. Okay. One of those things is interviewing your son and making sure that he's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then what I need to know is who is assaulting your son. Be honest.
I always thought it was his father because he'd always watch in front of him and everything, and every time he would come home from his house, he would touch Victoria inappropriately, and I'd ask him where he'd get that from.
Mm-hmm.
And he would tell me, well, Daddy watches naked girls.
Michelle, you have been bringing men to your apartment to use your daughter and sexually assault your daughter. This is not the first time that this has happened. This is not the first time that your daughter has been assaulted. I'm just going to use the word because that's what it is. You were allowing men to come over and have sex with your daughter, and in turn also having sex with you. Help me understand that.
What do you get out of it? Is it a turn on for you?
No.
Then help.
Because I would never do that to my daughter.
But you did last night. And the only reason that we're sitting here today, Michelle, is that it went a little further than it ever has before. This time she died. You weren't ready for the type of animals that these people were, and it went further than you anticipated. But let's start with this. How many times that what happened last night, minus her dying, how many times have you watched or that you know that Fabian and Jessica have had sex with your daughter since they've been in your house? How many times?
Like 3 times.
I think it's probably more than that.
All right, professionals, are we getting close to the truth yet? Lamar?
I think I think we're getting close. My fear, and I've got to be honest with you, this is really fucking hard to listen to, Joe. I apologize for the French, but I think where I'm landing on this is what she's not saying is she's basically using her daughter and potentially her son as well to get drugs. That's where I think this is going, and they're just walking her to it. I could be wrong. I just think that's where it's headed.
And brother, this one is extremely difficult. As a police officer, I've avoided any case that involved children because those are you put the bad guy in jail, but you can't ever forget what the horrible thing that's been done. But there's a reason why we're doing this one in particular. One is it's an unbelievable event. Two, tactically, there's some issues with this one. Jason, what's your assessment on? Are we close to the truth on this?
I think the truth is a massive can of worms, and they're just scratching the surface. I agree with Lucian. I think she's using her kids and working. And I want to go back to, I think Lucian mentioned that. Why are they in?
Well, I'll tell you what, you gave Lamar a compliment earlier. Now you're taking away his thunder, because that was Lamar that made that comment.
No. I'm wondering the clothing of the detectives. I'm thinking this is a drug case. That's why they're dressed the way they are. These might be narcs, not your typical general investigators. That was my first thought, but I'm thinking my thoughts right now.
Don't you think narcs would be better at doing an interrogation? I do too.
Depends on what they know before going in. And they're getting information and pumped into them, and the conversation's changing. And the conversation's getting more and more, holy shit, this is fucked up. And I personally right now, my gut is telling me that she is using her kids for sex so she can get drugs.
Drugs or cash, I don't disagree with that. But let's go a little further with Mother of the Year here before we go to stand-in Father of the Year.
That you watched?
That I know about.
How many times did you watch?
There was only that one.
How many times did you watch? Be honest.
Michelle, we know you watched. How many times did you watch? Every time?
Mostly.
So does it turn you on when Fabian has sex with you after? Is that what it is? That I'm just trying to understand.
No, it doesn't.
But you have sex with them immediately after, right?
I don't know what.
Okay.
Did David come into your house and have sex with your daughter while you watched?
No.
That wasn't a very honest answer. I'm going to ask you again. Did David come into your house and have sex with your daughter while you watched?
Yeah.
Okay. How many times?
Twice.
Okay. How many other men have come into your house and had sex with your daughter while you watched? I need to know. Like I said, Victoria is dead. The only thing we have anymore is to bring her justice.
Yeah.
And to be frank with you, by the sound of the things that she was experiencing, it sounds like death was the easy way out for her. Because it sounds like some pretty horrible things have happened to her in her life. Human being to human being. How many other men are out there that have come into your house and have had sex with your daughter or your son? How many men have come into your house and had sex with your daughter while you watched?
We have David, and we have Fabian. Who else?
And men or women, let's put it that way.
I'm not friends with much women.
Okay, so men. We have David, and we know Fabian. Who else?
There's one other guy, Joshua.
Joshua what?
What's his last name? Gray.
And how many times did he come over and have sex with your daughter?
Once.
How many times did he come over and have sex with your daughter?
Once.
One time.
Mm-hmm.
How many men have had sex with your son? Or women have had sex with your son? Either or. I need to know. So he's not a victim anymore. How many men?
Two.
Two?
Who are they? What are their names?
One was David.
One was David.
Mm-hmm.
Hernandez?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Who was the other one?
And I believe the other one is his father.
David's father?
No, Matthew's father.
You believe or you know? This is very important. Have you ever watched Matthew's father have with Matthew?
Watched.
How do you know that he has done it then?
I don't know for a fact.
have you ever watched Matthew's dad have with Matthew?
Or Victoria?
No.
No? Okay, with Matthew.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And that was how many times? Twice?
How many times did he have with Victoria?
3 times.
Was this at the same time or separate incidents?
Separate.
Okay.
Did he have with you every time?
No, not every time.
Did the way that you relax Victoria's to give her, did you give Matthew the same thing so that way he would relax?
Mm-hmm.
What would you give Matthew to relax?
I think it was equal.
ZQL? Is that like a nighttime make him drowsy kind of thing? Okay.
Sure.
Were you receiving any money from these people to have sex with your children?
No.
You did it because you enjoyed watching?
No.
Okay. Michelle, we're right there.
Mm-hmm.
Did you allow these people to have sex with your children because you like to watch? Be honest. Yeah? You like watching? Okay.
Michelle, are there any graphic images or videos of any of these sexual acts being done to your children?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we're going to go to boyfriend, stand-in father of the year in just a second. What do y'all think about this last part of questioning? Photographs, and do you enjoy it? Where are we getting with that?
Child porn.
Yep, it sounds like they were distributing child porn. Yep. My God.
But if I'm sitting in the box with a mother of a child that's been dismembered, do I care about child porn at this point?
You do if you want to get the other people involved.
But you know what? I guess she has given it up. She says that Fabian, the boyfriend, Jessica, the boyfriend's stand-in cousin or live-in cousin for a while, sexually assaulted her child while she watched and then ultimately killed her child. 20 minutes later, she has sex with her boyfriend after some tacos, I think. Regular standard night at the house. But this is her story. Let's go back when we see our male investigator, I think his name's Corey, who's going to confront boyfriend of the year, Fabian.
Joe, before we get to that, I'd like to ask you and Jason from a law enforcement perspective, how do you feel about the interrogators making declaratory statements?
I think it's crap.
Point with her, I'm fine with it.
No, I think it muddies the water even more. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, that's my concern. I'm looking at this going, wow, they said this stuff and they got lucky that she didn't say, I didn't say that, or that's, she didn't contradict them in many ways. And she hasn't quite done that yet, but I'm a little concerned that from a prosecutorial standpoint, some of this looks a little more coercive than I'd be comfortable with. But
well,
my area.
Here's a fact. One of these investigators is going to sit on the witness stand if it goes to a jury trial, and they're going to play this entire thing in its entirety. And probably a lot of stuff that we haven't seen. If it was a 12-hour video, they're going to go through it unless the defense says, no, we don't have to play this part, so to speak. But you're going to have to explain all it. And to me, I think the story is so difficult, as Jason said earlier, a can of worms. It's going to be like untangling Christmas lights on the stand, in my opinion. So I agree with you, Lucian. I think I don't like it. It's muddy. Are we ready to move on?
Yep.
We're doing it.
There's no way me and her did that because we were trying to hurry up and get help, emergency help. I'm lucky I even got away.
So let's slow down for a second. Do you understand now that even the smallest little detail that...
Yes.
You need to slow down. Listen, you need to slow down because the smallest little details that you're telling me is the difference straight up between me thinking you had something to do with the death of this little girl and me thinking that you were telling the truth. Straight up on a radar of 1 to 10, if I think you're full of shit, I think you're about a 9 full of shit. Honest. I'm just being honest with you.
Thanks.
So, hey, listen, like I said, we have a bunch of evidence. We do. We've got a bunch of evidence. And so, like I told you, I'm putting this puzzle together. And the only person whose pieces don't seem to be matching right now are you and Michelle's. Everybody that we talked to at the apartments, their pieces all match. They match the physical evidence that we have. They match the witness evidence that we have. What I want to know is what you and Michelle's involvement was, whether, no matter how hard, listen to me, stop. That's, again, when you start to jump in on me like that.
I won't say nothing else when you finish.
Okay. It makes me think that you're being deceptive.
Don't interrupt me when I'm preaching to you, because this story is all about me, I guess. It's weird that he stops him.
It was
okay, well, I'm sorry that you finish.
When you've already said and you've agreed with us, there's no way that the things that happened to Victoria could have happened to her without somebody hearing. Now, whether she was screaming or not, she didn't have to be screaming. She didn't have to be screaming. Just the noise alone of what was done to her body would have woken anybody up. And it woke up every apartment in your building, except for the only people that are supposedly not awake are you and Michelle, okay? According to you. And I'm just telling you what I'm being told. So do you see when I have people in apartments telling me that they wake up and they hear banging and something being drugged in an apartment, they hear screaming from a little girl, mind you, and they hear adults arguing. So I believe that you guys are arguing. I believe that there's a fight. Now, I also think that some of the filler in there that you've told me is bull. Just straight up. And I understand you're scared, okay? There's a little girl that's dead in an apartment, and I don't blame you for being scared. To be honest, on a lot of levels, I don't blame you for lying about stuff if you're lying. And here's why. It's a natural human reaction in the situation that you're in to protect yourself. This isn't some stolen TV or somebody that got a bullet wound in their arm. This is a dead 10-year-old girl, and I'm taking that as serious as I possibly can, okay? We're going to talk to Michelle. They're talking to her right now.
We're going to bounce this a little bit because we're going to be running short on time. This is a lot of filler about blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah.
I wish that little girl was still alive right now, and I wish we would have checked on her a lot sooner. And to tell you the truth, we didn't hear her. We were woken up to this. Me and Michelle both. By Jessica being we were talking about, say her parent, do you believe in Jesus? And she got some phones.
What do you have in that? What is in that apartment that would be sharp enough or heavy enough or whatever it is to cut a 10-year-old girl's leg off?
Probably the kitchen knife, like I was saying.
You gotta get through bone. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Cutting a leg off? I mean, people use, like a power tool would be probably a little more appropriate, or a saw, you know what I'm saying? So a kitchen knife is gonna take a long time.
Or, like I said, there's that other big kitchen knife too that's a little bit bigger, and then those are the only knives I know she has, guys. Like I said, I've only known her for 3 weeks, we get along great, I still, you know what I mean? Still want to be there, still, that's the only thing that I know that's in there like that.
Because at first you said that you did not ever check on Victoria, right? Never happened. You guys never checked on Victoria. You left.
Thought she was asleep.
Thought she was sleeping.
Yeah.
Now there's this big story about this fight that happened over by Victoria's room, and you're pulling Michelle off, and that's a big story that never happened before. It never existed.
What I'm trying to tell you is this: we thought Victoria was fine because we thought she was sleeping, like we were saying, okay? And Jessica never said nothing bad. So we thought everything was okay. We thought she was sleeping because we seen her coming downstairs. We were listening to music down there, okay? She went back up there, and we went back up there, and we said, "What?" She said, she laid her back down, she said. So then we just left it, because we said we were asleep, okay? So this is the whole reason why I'm saying that. And then when we went to bed, when we got woke up, and this is when all the weird, crazy, weird bullshit started happening, when Jessica trying to kill us and say that we trying to do this and that. And
you know what I think, Fabian? I think that we've been sitting here for a long time, for quite a while, talking in circles, and I think
Well, tell me how-
you're a smart guy.
I know.
Listen to me.
Let me tell you this.
I think you're a smart guy.
She's talking
Tell
to
me.
you, Faith.
Listen, just real quick. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt
I understand
because I'm
that.
saying you're a smart guy. Smart enough to know when that little girl was being carried up those stairs yesterday that you did go check on her and she was dead and you got scared. I think you were just scared and you knew. So I think you guys were like in the apartment over like hours.
If I would have known that, I would have seen something right away, guys. Come on. Scared or not. I would have said something.
Well, how can you convince me of that? Because after everything that went on,
Because even Michelle thought she was okay.
Fabian, we're not saying that you killed her or that you had anything to do with her death. We're not. Okay?
Yes.
Do you understand?
But if she
Listen. Okay. Do you understand that we don't think that you killed her? What she's saying is we think that when you saw her on the stairs that she was dead. And that when you went inside, that she was dead and you guys didn't know what to do and you got scared. And that's what I've been trying to tell you.
I was in my right mind. I wasn't out of it. I wasn't on anything, okay? And yeah, I was a little bit buzzed, tired from the long day, but I was in my right mind, okay? Yes, trust best believe that I should have noticed a little more, but I really thought she was just sleeping around. Yes, I kind of thought it was fishy why she turned around and didn't listen to me when I said, hey, come here, what's going on? To try to see what was going on, okay? We went upstairs. Michelle asked, okay, oh, Victoria's sleeping? Yeah, should I laid her down, Jessica said. No, or whatever they said, whatever. But yeah, basically she...
Okay, we're down to our last 15 minutes. What do you? I'm just going to tell you because it's not. You'd have to get the whole story to figure out. Neither one of these two were there. Fabian and Michelle were not there. Later determined through cell phone records during the time of death or the window that young Victoria was brutally murdered, Fabian and Michelle were not there. They had left the child alone with Jessica Kelly, his cousin. Jessica Kelly was originally charged. All three were originally charged with murder. The murder charge was backed off between these two, and eventually the murder charge was backed off on Jessica. Jessica's claim is that she was left alone with the child while these two were gone. And while they were gone, a man who she did not know came over, claimed to be a cartel member after Fabian here, who's obviously a big wheel drug dealer. After Fabian, and to send a message, raped and killed this child and told the cousin to dispose of the body and then leaves. And this is kind of where it's left. That's kind of the story that's now. Each one of them received a sentence of child abuse causing death and tampering, or essentially a New Mexico charge for tampering with evidence. Jessica gets a plea bargain for 44 years. This gentleman here gets, I think, 52 years, and mom gets 12 years. And there's still an outstanding warrant for a John Doe because during the autopsy, DNA from a fourth person was found on this child's body. And it's surmised that since these three aren't charged with murder, that the next person is. But this story was run on some local stations. They did a pretty good job. And the reason I'm stopping early because I want to play this so everybody gets the breadth of what's going on with this.
Reporter from Albuquerque news station KOAT has been following the case since the very beginning.
The information that day that we were told is that Victoria had been so brutally killed. I mean, she had been literally chopped up and set on fire. Her body parts were put in bags in different parts of the apartment.
The whole thing is beyond anyone's conception that this could happen, especially to a little 10-year-old child.
Within hours, they arrested her mother, her mother's boyfriend, and his cousin. They were all three at the apartment.
Victoria's mother, Michelle Martens, Michelle's then boyfriend, Fabian Gonzalez, and Fabian's cousin, Jessica Kelly, were charged with multiple felonies. The charges included child abuse, murder, and sexual penetration of a minor.
That day, what we were told was her mother told police that Victoria had been drugged, that she watched her daughter get raped, and murdered. The first responders were horrified.
I've been involved in the criminal law for over 30 years, and this is the most inhumane case I think I've come across.
When the news of Victoria's death hit the community, it hit hard. Government officials and citizens alike pushed for changes in legislation, including the return of the death penalty.
My personal belief is we need the death penalty for those limited and horrific circumstances.
They're predators. They're molesters of children. And I'm asking that the FBI step in and investigate and prosecute this case through the United States Attorney's Office.
When Victoria's autopsy report was released in November 2016, it revealed she had been strangled to death. Some of the details put Michelle Martens' version of events into question.
There was no meth in her system. And that was something that I thought was unusual because the mother had said that they gave her meth. And they kept, investigating and investigating. January rolls around, there's a new district attorney, and he brings in some very seasoned detectives to review the case. They're looking at all the cell phone data and all the, any technology that they have there. And then it turns out as the evidence comes back, it's not matching what she's saying. So as the investigation continues, they figure out she gave what is called a false confession.
For more than a year, police investigated the false claims made by Michelle Martens.
The information that was guiding the initial investigation and the charging decisions in the case were based primarily on that statement. And we now know that that statement is false.
Her defense attorney was just saying that it's very, very rare, but Michelle Martens, she's a people pleaser. So if she's asked a question, she's going to answer whichever way she thinks that they want to hear.
It was completely made up. And so they went down, the police, the investigators went down this road based on what the mother had told them, and that road turned out to be a complete dead end.
This is what they believe happened. So she gets off her school bus, she goes to the apartment, Fabian Gonzalez takes her to a gas station, they come back, Fabian Gonzalez and Michelle Martens' cell phone data shows that they leave the apartment. According to police, they go buy some drugs from one of his relatives.
Cell phone and detailed Google location data corroborated those eyewitness accounts and definitively placed Michelle and Fabian outside the apartment at the time of the rape and murder.
They leave the little girl with Jessica Kelly, Fabian Gonzalez's cousin, who had just gotten out of prison and was staying at the apartment and has a long, violent criminal history.
Jessica Kelly's prior convictions include battery and assault of a police officer, among others.
Jessica Kelly, her version of events is that Victoria was in her bedroom, that the door was open. She says a man she didn't know came into the apartment and killed Victoria. Then he leaves. Then Fabian comes back with Michelle Martens, and they keep Michelle occupied. She doesn't check on her daughter. As the hours go on, investigators believe that Jessica Kelly and Fabian Gonzalez chop her up. They put her body parts in bags throughout the apartment, and then they set her on fire.
I wish I would have knew what the I was getting myself into, dog. That put me away for life.
In addition to the cell phone data and new testimony, investigators also discovered male DNA on Victoria's body.
There was partial DNA found on Victoria's back that didn't match Fabian. Now, his DNA was found in other parts of the apartment, but on Victoria's body, there was partial DNA from another male. They checked with all the first responders, didn't match theirs. So it's a partial DNA, so it's really difficult to match.
There's a lot of emphasis that's been put on this unknown male, but at the end of the day, what do we know other than Jessica Kelly's story and the fact that there is some DNA, male DNA of an unknown origin?
The murder and sexual assault charges against each suspect were then dropped. In June 2018, Michelle Martens pleaded guilty to one count of child abuse resulting in death.
Mr. Martens, how do you plead?
She faces up to 15 years in prison.
I think it should be a wake-up call if you're a single parent and you invite strangers into your home when you have kids. Michelle Martens, Victoria's mother, she had met Fabian Gonzalez on a dating website. She didn't know him very long. He has an arrest record. She lets him move into her apartment with her 2 children, her daughter and her little boy. Soon thereafter, his cousin gets out of prison and he says, hey, my cousin's going to come live with us too. So she allows 2 people that she does not know very well to live with her children. And her little boy was with his biological father the night that Victoria was murdered. So by the grace of God, he wasn't there.
No contest.
In January 2019, Jessica Kelly agreed to a plea deal of no contest to multiple charges, including child abuse resulting in death.
The state says that she helped dismember her, that she set her on fire, that she lets this strange man walk into the apartment. He kills the little girl, and then he leaves.
Kelly will be required to testify against other suspects in the case and won't have to face a jury. She still faces up to 50 years in prison.
Just upset why they let her even take that when they should have served justice and took her to trial and found her guilty for what she did.
The sense that I get from the community is that there's a lot of frustration. They feel like there hasn't really been justice in this case. But I don't think a lot of people understand that's more than a life sentence here in New Mexico. A life sentence here is 30 years.
The things that has sort of haunted me from the beginning is this notion that we would be forced into a place where we wouldn't be able to hold everyone accountable. Either because of the evidence and because of the facts. We now have Jessica Kelly's cooperation, and I believe that that case is significantly strengthened.
Gonzalez and his lawyers maintain his innocence. He is now charged with child abuse resulting in death and tampering with evidence.
Attorneys for Fabian Gonzalez maintain that he didn't have anything to do with her death. It was a small apartment. They say he was woken up and didn't know what had happened to Victoria, and he ran out.
Gonzalez was released from jail in November 2019, awaiting a trial date.
The reason why this is taking so long for Fabian to go to trial is prosecutors want to bring up what they say is his past, his ties to gangs and ties to drugs. Well, the judge in this case said no. So they're appealing.
So there's the outcome. Professionals, did the police do right on this one?
I don't want a Monday morning quarterback, and I admit my
Go
bias
ahead.
here.
I think it's okay. Go ahead.
I think I want to say no. I mean, now that retrospectively, the way they were questioning, there was a lot of leading. I think the fact that they never really established a hard timeline throughout the entirety of everything we saw. There's no real wonder that they had to bring in a second set of seasoned investigators to figure out what the hell was going on. But at the same time, I admit they're in a tough position, especially with the extra DNA that was found and the fact that maybe the original woman was just kind of making stuff up or admitting to things that she didn't do. I don't know.
Well, Jason, can a bad interrogation foul the entire case? Well, I'll answer my point on that. Absolutely. I think that the golden opportunity in an interrogation was fouled on this. Anything that was used on those tapes can't be used. And I'll be honest, she had quite a bit of detail about how her child was being sexually assaulted, even beyond the leading questions. And there was another part of that autopsy that didn't show in this interview that young Victoria had a sexually contracted disease. She had been, these things I believe did happen to her, but because it's so fouled up, you'll never be able to use that again. And you'd be a fool to admit to it or give another interrogation for that fact at this point, once an attorney gets involved. But I think a golden opportunity was squandered by the police. And I don't like the interrogation. They talk way too much. Their questions are way too leading. And I don't think they assessed their targets as being emotionally immature, which would be like talking to a teenager. And I don't believe that's the way you would start to engage a teenager in an interrogation. Jason, you back with us?
Yeah, sorry about that. What was the,
No.
Sorry, what was
The question is that can a bad interrogation foul up an entire investigation?
Absolutely, but at the end of the day, I think what we saw, facts will be the overcoming determining factor. And I don't blame the cops for the information they had at the time, and then bringing in the second investigators to. And if you go back and you look at this, I mean, all their stories are just all over the goddamn place, and there's no timeline. There's no. It's just a big can of shit.
I'm going to go back, and I am throwing some darts at the police on this. I don't like to money back quarterback or to use hindsight to say for criticism necessarily. And you guys have heard me say that, but I'll say it on this is that you'll go when you're doing an interrogation, you're going to walk down some paths you only have the opportunity to walk down once. If you're not sure, don't take that step. Maybe is a good example. I think that if I was quarterbacking this between the two rooms, I think I would have pulled my investigators off. We didn't establish a